Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carlo Prusa MMA. Today, I am with a very special guest. My guest today, he made a name for himself on The Ultimate Fighter 32. He was a finalist. He is making his return to the UFC octagon, taking on the Punisher, Torrez Finney, going down April 5th, Apex, Las Vegas. He is Robzilla, Mr. Robert Valentine. Rob, what's going on, brother? Good morning to you. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. Just came back from my breakfast and now I'm heading to the gym soon. And yeah, getting ready for the fight.
So you were on totally different sides of the world right now. Obviously, you're all the way over in Thailand right now. You know, when you first started, obviously you were doing construction stuff. You're doing the labor type jobs. You made that decision to move to Thailand and train. What drew you to go in there?
Um, yeah, so basically I was going back and forth to Thailand for a long time for training camps. And at one point I just came over here and I was like, there's nothing that holds me back from staying here. That was now 3 years ago. Training is awesome here. The weather is good, food is good, and you can really focus just on the sport. So I was like, yeah, that's it. I'll stay here. And it's been 3 years since then now.
You know, starting your career off in Europe, what was the fight scene like there?
Yeah, in in Europe, the fight scene is still very underdeveloped, I would say. Um, we have a lot of regional events that basically all they do is push their local fighters. So they invite guys that are most likely to lose to build the records of their local stars. There is not yet a big competitive scene in Europe. There are from time to time, but mainly it's just local events. And for me, I kind of built my career on this. So I would be the guy that was invited to lose against their guy. And then I a couple of times stole the show. Obviously, that's also how I got some losses on my record, if you look at my record. Um, but I built my career on those tough fights, on those fights that give me a lot of experience. And that's how I thought I'll make the best out of it. Get tough opponents, maybe climb faster or get more experience instead of going like the easy way with picked opponents and a build-up record. So in general, the European scene I think is still kind of stuck in this kind of competition wise. We don't have the real competition yet. It's coming step by step, but yeah.
You know, I think that's a very interesting point. And one of the things, you know, mixed martial arts has changed so much over the last 15, 20 years. Obviously, 15, 20 years ago, people were calling it human cockfighting. It wasn't legal everywhere. They thought it was like criminal activity, all this crazy stuff, right? Now you're really starting to see the business side of things. Especially now, fighting on the regional scene, every fight is a business decision. A lot of guys now, a lot of promotions, as you mentioned, all around the world protect their guys. Why? Because they go to the UFC, the promotion gets some name recognition out of it. You know, guys want fights that are, you know, match up well stylistically to help them get there, to help them achieve their dreams. You know, even go as far as what you're posting on Instagram. Who are you doing interviews with? You know, all these things are business decisions. Are you starting to really see this as a business?
Um, so it is a business, and I've always seen it that way. Mm, there was a quote of my stepfather that he told me when I was a kid. My stepfather is a very successful businessman, and he always told me this, Rob, if you do something with a lot of passion and love, it will be successful. And if it's your passion and you make a business out of it and you put your love and effort into it and the hard work, it must be successful. So for me, it was always this kind of, yeah, it is a business, but I also really love it. And sometimes fighters have a blurred vision when it comes to the business side because they love it so much. For me, it's not that a problem because I grew up with this kind of mindset. So I also always try to make business smart decisions, but I'm also a risk taker. And this is maybe what is the difference from me to other people who have like a very strong manager in the back who's like, oh no, we don't take this fight, we have to do this, we have to do that. I'll take risks. I'm like, okay, maybe I have a loss on my record, but I can gain something from it. And it is a business and everybody's doing business differently, right? So I'm doing business like a fighter. I take risks. Yeah.
I think for a while, a lot of guys looked at you and referred to you as that's the grappling guy. But I mean, I think you've proven you're more than just a grappling guy. You're a very well-rounded mixed martial artist. Obviously, that huge knockout on the Ultimate Fighter. You picked up some knockouts in your fights. You're a very entertaining fighter that's very well-rounded. At what point in the career did you really start thinking, hey, if I'm on to fight in the UFC, if I'm going to try to fight the best guys in the world, I'm going to have to be well-rounded as possible?
Oh, that's a good question. To, I I always wanted, and I was like, oh, there must be a way, but I doubted for a long time just because it seemed so far away. It seemed like how I was training with Volkan Ozdemir, and he was the only guy from Switzerland that made it. But I think it was like maybe like 4 years ago or something like that. I started to spar regularly with all kinds of UFC fighters here in Thailand. And one guy that also mentored me a lot on my career was Alistair Overeem. And he always told me like, yo, Rob, you have that thing. You can do it. Just be smart about it and the right timing and everything. And then at this time, I went to Phuket for the first time. And every time when I went to Thailand, I was actually with Alistair and Volkan, and they always went to other gyms. And they were like, no, Robert, don't go to Phuket. That's not the place for you. And in this 1 year, I was like, okay, go. If you want to go, then go. And I went by myself and I started to spar regularly with like high level UFC fighters. And then I felt like, man, I can give these guys rounds. We can train together and we both benefit from it. And they come back to me and they're like, hey, let's train together. Oh, let's work. And that's when I started to feel, oh, I'm not this rookie anymore. I actually have some fights on my back now. I have some experience. I have some knowledge. And there's not this huge gap, right? And then the other key point was when I started to work with my current manager, with Syed, who's a well-known manager. And I wanted to work with him. And I came to him and I'm like, hey, Syed, what do you think? And he's like, no. And he was watching me training, watching me fight. And at one point he was like, hey, Rob, you want to go fight in Russia? And I was like, ooh. Send the Western guy to Russia, right? Test him. So I was like, yeah, let's fucking go. Come on. Took a plane, flew to Russia. I beat the guy up. I come back and he's like, hey, here's a contract. You want to work with me? And I was like, fuck yes, of course. And that was the second point, right? When you start to work with people who are really professionals. Because there are a lot of managers, but they're not professionals. You know what I mean? They're like, they tell you everything. Oh, you can become this, you can become. But Sad is a guy well known and professional, and so that was this time, and I was like, maybe it's possible. And from there on, everything started to come together. Yeah.
Mainstream wise, a lot of people really got to know who you were from the 32nd season of The Ultimate Fighter. Obviously had one of the most vicious, crazy knockouts in the history of the show on that one, win on, be in the finale. What was that process like, man? What was it like auditioning for it? What was it like having your phone taken away, being in the house with a bunch of fighters?
Until today, I say that this experience of The Ultimate Fighter was the best experience my whole life. It's incredible, actually. Like, I remember I was supposed to fight in Russia in 2023, and they fucked up my visa. And then I had to fight in a regional event in Switzerland. And I was like, fuck, I don't want to do this, fighting this shitty opponents, shitty events. And my manager back then told me, Robert, sometimes we need to do what we need to do. We never know what happens after this. And I'm like, okay, I fight this fucking guy in Switzerland. 2 days later, I see on Instagram a post that the next tough will be middleweights and featherweights. And I send my manager a screenshot and I tell him, what do you think? And he's like, I signed you up already. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, your first interview is next week. I'm like, fucking hell. And when I started MMA, and I didn't know about the UFC, the first thing I watched was The Ultimate Fighter. And I was like, damn, I want to be on this show one day. And that's now like 9 years ago, something like that. And from there on, it was like, well, okay, this feels like it's made for me. All this whole setup, the show, the producers, being in Vegas, being in this house, being in this also pressure-like environment, right? You're with your opponents. No connection, no phone, like you said, right? For me, this felt so natural because that's how I've been living my whole life, traveling to foreign countries, being around strangers, not being with family or whatever, I'm like a chameleon, they say. I can adapt everywhere. I find my ways. I build my routine, and from there on, it's like easy. And that's what I did in the house. I was like, the first day, I'm like, okay. I slept inside, and the first night, I was like, okay, I cannot sleep inside. They're snoring. It's hot. I don't like it. I took my bed, I put it in the garden. That was the first step. And then I built my routine around it. I got up every morning, like 6 a.m. I went to the kitchen, cook, I went to run. And from there on, my routine was so strong. I was like, this is easy. One of the producers told me, Robert, for some people, this is a prison. For some, it's a temple. And for me, it was a temple. I was the best time of my life. No distractions. I could only focus on fighting, training, getting better, promoting myself as a fighter, having cameras in my face 24/7. I'm like, here, hell yeah, let's go. Come on, watch this. Boom, So I really enjoyed the time.
Obviously, you had one of the highlights of that whole season, that knockout over Giannis Batcher. I think like 20 seconds in the fight, caught him with a crazy elbow. When that episode was released and that clip started going on the internet, did your phone just stay blowing up?
Yeah. So when the episode aired, I was in the airplane. I flew to Saudi Arabia because Volkan was fighting in Saudi Arabia, and I was cornering him there. And I was in the taxi to the airport when the show started running. I went to the airplane. I got out of the airplane like 6 hours later. My phone was like, I'm like, fuck, oh shit. It was sick, yeah.
You made it all the way to the final that season, and fought a tough guy, Ryan Loder. You were on a big fight night card. Obviously, it didn't go your way, but what was the whole takeaway? What was that whole takeaway? Are there any good takeaways that are going to make us stronger going forward from the whole experience?
Of course. So this was very tough loss for me. I wanted to go in there and didn't let Ryan do what Ryan wanted to do. And it bothers me that I knew what he wanted to do, and I didn't find the right tools to stop it. And what I took away from all of this is sometimes when it doesn't go your way, right? You have to be able to adapt and also swallow the result and not dwell on it, because that's what I did for like almost, to be honest, almost until now, it's like stuck in here, this loss. Because, you only get this chance once in your life, right? To fight in the Ultimate Fighter finale, unless you're Brett Katona. But I had to learn to adapt, to swallow it up, and I'm like, okay, that's it right now. That's the situation. We need to learn. We need to get back to training and make it better next time around. Obviously, a lot of doubts coming up as a fighter in your mind. With like, fuck, I lost. Oh shit, it's my first fight there. I mean, now my UFC contract starts. It was not the first fight of my contract, but now the contract starts. But still, you don't want to start your career in the UFC with a loss. And what I learned in the end from it is really, I need to stay calm and I need to enjoy the process also, because I built up so much pressure around me going to that finale because of the hype also, everybody was like, oh, rub this, rub that, blah, blah, blah. And it was going into my head a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, let's go. But what I forgot from all of this was years ago, I would have died to have this opportunity. And I didn't really enjoy it because all this pressure in my head and all the scenarios that build up, how it has to be and how I have to perform. I forgot that like a couple years ago, little Rob would have died for this experience. And I'm living my dream. I'm here in fucking Thailand. Wait, I'll show you. Look at this. Look at this.
It's unbelievable. Oh my gosh. Wow.
I'm
Beautiful.
I'm living my dream. I'm training. I have my good friends around me that have been with me all the time. I can train. I have, I need to enjoy this instead of letting it get to your head, right?
All right, let's get to the fight a little bit now. Honestly, this is one of the fights when I saw this book, I got super excited here. I was a little surprised to see this fight, to be honest with you, Made. You have Torrez Finney, guy coming on the Qatar series. Took him 3 times, 3 wins on the Qatar series to get in. Guy's got a lot of followers, become a very, very popular name so far in the sport. Yourself, another very popular name, guy with a lot of hype behind you and for good reason, blew up from the show. You don't really see 2 young guys starting off their career in the UFC with this type of hype fighting each other. Were you a little surprised that you were his first opponent in the UFC?
No, to be honest, no. No, I wasn't surprised because it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And I think it's a huge opportunity the UFC gives us. It's a huge opportunity. They could also give us some, easy. There's no easy fights in UFC, but you know what I mean. They could give us different opponents. But they're like, hey, you guys, which one of you want it really bad? Who wants to be a household name in this company? And they give us the first piece of meat, and they're like, show us. So it's a big opportunity, and I like it. I really like it.
Overall, what do you think of him as an opponent?
I think he's another wrestling specialist, right? So I've actually seen him in the hotel of the Ultimate Fighter, but he wasn't picked for the house. And I was like, damn, that's such an awkward frame, right? He's as wide as tall. And I was like, oh shit. Obviously, strong guy. Obviously, unbeaten record. He even has, I think, a knockout, like overhand right. He can mix it up. I think it's super tough opponent, talented kid, and I think this fight has everything to be a bang. Yeah.
One thing I think is really cool is, there's some people who are, kind of all over the place with the Apex. It's not as cool as a live stadium. In this matchup, I mean, you're looking at a smaller cage. and you're looking with a guy who's got some grappling, guy who's got some stand up. Torrez, obviously a wrestling specialist. He's got some pop. How does a smaller cage blend in and affect this fight?
To be honest, the smaller cage favors Torres. I would be the guy favors bigger cage where I can build my distance, where I can use my reach, where I can use my footwork, right? With a smaller cage, you make one step back, you're on the fence, and that's where he wants you with his wrestling, right? So I think in this particular fight, it favors him. Although I'm not so sure how he managed if the fight goes to the third round, let's say, and he cannot take a step back from the striking, right? Because that's also a thing from the wrestlers. Sometimes they want to be like completely out of the range so they can reset a little bit and they can catch a breath, He's a super muscular guy, also burns the oxygen, right? So maybe towards the later rounds, it can also be a disadvantage for him. But I definitely see the smaller cage for a wrestler, obviously, against a tall guy is an advantage. For me, that's another obstacle, another challenge that I have to face and I have to overcome. But yeah, pressure makes diamonds, and this fight has everything to make a good story in the end.
We talked about the business side a little bit. You mentioned risk taking. Obviously, find a tough guy here, undefeated guy that probably not a lot of people want to fight. Beating him, if you're able to beat him, if you're able to finish him, does that just give you nothing but top opponents going forward?
I guess. I mean, the roster is wide. There's a lot of middleweights, so there's a lot of fights to make. And also, I'm not sure how the UFC, how they put him in the place in this roster. If they think, oh, maybe he's like one of the newcomers that we put a little bit higher, or in the end, I don't want to focus too much on what comes after the fight. Focus on this fight first. But obviously, I was never the guy to turn down any fight that got offered to me. And that's also a thing I told the matchmakers right after the finale. Like, guys, if you need any guy, call me. I'm ready to fight whenever. And that's basically how I always acted in my career. So let's leave this for after the fight. First, focus on this one. But I was never the guy to turn down any fight. So whatever they offer me after this, be sure I will step in the cage.
Do you take a lot of pride in knowing, you're establishing yourself as one of those fan favorite guys, the type of guys that people love to watch fight because you're so entertaining, type of guy that'll fight anybody because we don't turn down fights? Do you take a lot of pride in that?
To be honest, I think that's how your mindset should be if you're going to the sport. That's how I always thought. And I don't take a lot of pride in it. I just think I signed up to do the sport. And this is what comes with signing up for doing the sport. And if I would sit here and I don't know if I could go to the gym with the same energy, when I'm knowing, if they offer me the wrong guy, I will maybe look for an excuse to not fight him. And life is always to overcome fears and doubts, And I'm not the guy that tells you, I'm not afraid of anyone. Man, I'm going in the cage. I'm terrified, Obviously, I love fighting, but nobody wants to get hurt intentionally. Nobody wants to lose. You go in there, it doesn't matter who you're fighting. There's always something in your head that keeps you alert, like, don't lose this fight, bro. Don't do it. You cannot lose. So that's part of the game. You're fighting a guy that's like C class or A class. man, I'd rather fight the A-class guy and piss my pants instead of a C-class guy, you know? So anyone who tells you, I'm not afraid, fuck it. Deep down, they know. They know.
So many people watch this sport in this day and age, and I think the casual fans, they look at the Habibs, the McGregors, the John Joneses, and they're like, "Wow, it must be unbelievable to be a fighter. That must be the best life ever." Little do they know, man, when you're battling on the regional scene, you're losing money. That is not a glorious life. A lot of guys have that 9 to 5 job, kids, maybe wife. You have to pay to train, get up early, stay up late. You have to do this over and over. You make it to the UFC. Money gets better, not probably what a lot of people expect. They're not thinking, hey, I need to buy coaches hotels. I need to buy coaches plane tickets. Hey, there's tax. There's all the supplements. There's all these different things. You've been doing this for like 10 years now, man. Why? Why have you kept sticking with this every single day and kept punching and kicking and moving forward?
Like I said in the beginning, I think if you put effort and love into something, it will be successful, And yeah, that's how I always acted, and that's how I always maneuver through my career. And you cannot do the sport for money. If I would choose money, I would do way different things. I have options. I know tomorrow both legs fall off. I have many things to do to make money if I want to make money. But yeah, I mean, I could also have a job and make a lot of money in Switzerland, and I fucking go to a job every day that I hate. But guess what? No. No.
Yeah, I think another way in which the sport has changed, it's very entertainment driven now. I mean, you see the product offered every weekend, all these different promotions. Obviously the UFC, you have the PFL at their bare knuckle. There's literally, you can watch a regional fight like 4 or 5 times a week now, which is absolutely crazy. And I think one of the things we're seeing is it's not just for a lot of guys. I don't think it's all about fighting anymore. I mean, we're thinking, how can we put on a show? How can we put on entertainment? There's guys who play characters. They are someone they're completely not while they're on camera. They know it's going to get them a title shots. Know they're going to sell tickets. Know they have to sell themselves in a way to try to better themselves from their career standpoint. How do you think personality and entertainment has affected mixed martial arts?
Well, UFC and MMA blew up after Conor McGregor, right? And what does he do differently from everyone else is how he sells himself. And like you said, people want to be entertained. Obviously, not everyone watching the UFC is a full-on hardcore MMA professional freak fan. They don't know everything. They want to see guys that bring something to the cage, not just their talents and skills, right? This is why you see now all these guys blowing up like Shara Bullet, the pirate. Perfect marketing move, Poatan, look at him. He's a meme himself, right? All these guys. And what I always said is like, go to Russia, you find 10 guys in a local gym that could be UFC champion. Skill-wise. They could be. But there's no personality. And that's why people rather watch Michael Venom Page versus Shara Bullet. Even maybe they're not the best in the world. There are people that could kick their ass in the gym. Like every one of those guys, they can come like a UFC champion to the gym and he gets his ass whooped by some Dagestani guy, Personality. So important. And I think it's great. Because it reaches more people, Obviously, you need to have the balance. You don't want to have bums that making it just because they have a personality, right? You want to keep the level of MMA high as you can. But you also need to reach those casuals and those people who are actually willing to pay the tickets, to buy merch, to support the sport. And that's the only way.
We mentioned them a little bit, but there's now a term that we've coined, the casual fan. And, me personally, I have a love and hate relationship with these people. Obviously, it's good. We need people on the sport. Doesn't matter if they've trained, doesn't matter how much they know. We need people buying tickets. It's just going to grow mixed martial arts and help guys get paid more and more and more. But, casuals, my favorite part of the casuals are the ones who are usually at B-Dub, Buffalo Wild Wings, are at the bars. They're usually drunk. They're in the cheap seats of the stands. They like to get on the internet and talk a lot of stuff, twist them in the you-know-what. You're a crotch sniffer. You're a crotch humper. I can beat you. You're not that tough. You probably get great messages in your DMs from some of them daily. What do you think of these people as a whole?
Oh, man. It's like, I think the average man walking on this earth overestimates his knowledge about fighting or his capability of getting into a fight by 10,000%. That's just the way it is. And that's how it's always going to be. So you need to always confront those things with a lot of humor, with, you cannot, you know how it is. Nobody would tell you this into your face. I saw just recently a guy in the gym, and he's maybe a hobbyist, MMA, and I was on the side stretching myself, and I heard him talk about this guy and that guy. Guess what? Alexander Volkanovski is right now here in Thailand, training in the gym. He's the first guy that went to take a picture with him. Oh, let them talk. In the end, they know when it comes face to face, they're like overwhelmed, and all of a sudden they forget everything they said. And even like, it's always going to be like this. What I appreciate is when like journalists and people who present the sport to those kind of people do a good job by actually trying to educate those kind of people, That's all we can do. That's all we can do. Let them talk. Some of them might change over the years, Some of them stay exactly the same, and they will sit on their computer and write some DM. Now I'm showing Robzilla what I think about him. Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo.
What's it like to represent Switzerland, alongside guys like Volkan Ozdemir?
It's a huge honor. We're the only two guys. There's one more guy, Ange Losa, but he also represents the Congo. Small country, obviously. We have 8 million citizens and very small in the heart of Europe. But what people don't know is that the Swiss were very big warriors back in the days. They were one of Europe's fiercest warriors. And bringing back a little bit of that warrior culture and representing the flag internationally, I think it's a huge responsibility, huge honor. And I'm always chilled when I can walk out with my flag and represent my country. Yeah, means a lot to me.
All right, Robzilla, last question for you, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome on April 5th when you return to the UFC octagon against Torrez Finney?
In a perfect world, of course, a first round knockout. First round knockout and a bonus. We're working. We are working towards that.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, Rob, thank you so much. I know you got so many things to do all the way out in Thailand. I really appreciate the fact that you gave me a little bit of time this morning. It means a lot to me, and I can't wait to watch this fight, man.
Thank you, Carlo. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. That's it for us tonight, and that's it for us this morning out in Thailand. I am Carlo Prusa. That is Robzilla. He is Rob Valentine. Take it easy, fight fans.